Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. Thank you so much for joining us on our weekly workspace setup webinar. I'm your host, John Bowman, and it's a pleasure to have you today. We're so excited to see you. Before we get started today, before we get to this agenda, I want to make sure we understand our ground rules for this webinar that we're having. First and foremost, thank you for coming. Like I said, we're so happy to have you here. But something we want to keep in mind as we are talking today is you should go ahead and ask your questions as we go. We've got some great members of our coaching and support team here at ClickUp that are going to be answering those questions as we go along. So please use the Q&A section of the Zoom webinar to ask your questions as we go. I can't pause, unfortunately, in order to answer them. We will have some brief Q&A at the end for us to talk about as well, where the most upvoted questions we will answer. So again, folks, as we're talking, feel free to ask your questions. Additionally, this is being recorded. So don't worry, if you miss something, I promise you can always get the recording. And we do this every week. So maybe, you might want to come back next week and maybe ask a different question or whatever it is. We want to be here for you to ensure that your questions get answered. So feel free again to do that. And remember, we are recording this. Additionally, I want to confirm the time that we've set aside today. We set aside generally about 45 minutes. Now, if past instances of this webinar have can promise any future performance, this might take a little bit longer than 45 minutes. Sometimes it does. I like to stay a little bit longer and answer any questions that come up. We may officially increase the length of the webinar, or we may decrease the amount of things that we talk about. We haven't decided yet. But generally speaking here, remember, we've got about 45 minutes that we're going to have together. And in that 45 minutes, it's going to be action-packed with important information for how you can actually set up your account. All right. So I think that's pretty much everything. Remember, ask your questions as we go. And let's dive into today's agenda. We're going to talk about why you should be using ClickUp. Then we're going to talk about how you should actually be organizing your workspace. And then we're going to use our template center, and we're going to go inside of our accounts, and we're going to have a completely blank out account, something that doesn't have anything inside of it whatsoever. We're going to ask you for which use case you think we should build out, and we're going to build it out. Before we do that, though, I forgot to ask, where's everybody located? I'm located here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. If you want to open up the chat and give us a little shout out of where you are, I love to hear that, just because it's always so great to hear. Hey, we got Montreal, San Antonio, Texas, UK, Northern Virginia, Alabama. Wow, there we are. New York, perfect. Somebody else from Pittsburgh, that's great. It's a beautiful day here in Pittsburgh, Chicago, Tulsa, Sicily, Italy. Oh man, Philippines, this is great. This is wonderful, folks. I love seeing all these wonderful people from all over the world coming to talk about ClickUp today. We're so excited to have you here. You're from Oregon. Great. That's wonderful. Okay. Sorry about that. All right. That's our agenda, folks. Let's dive into why we should be using ClickUp today. Well, why should you use ClickUp? Frankly, it's our mission to save people time by making the world more productive. And I'm going to leave this up on the screen for a little bit longer. You know why? Because this is really important. This literally, you don't have a ton of time on, we all don't have a ton of time. We're all busy. We're all working through, a really, really action-packed and schedule-packed day. And so ClickUp being able to give you more time back into your life, well, frankly, I can't think of anything that's more precious, right? So that's why one reason why I love working here at ClickUp is the idea that we give you more time back into your day, and we help you to be more productive. And how do we do that, you may ask me? How do we take this mission and how do we bring it out into the world? Well, there are usually three main things we talk about. First is the idea of focus. Second is the idea of flexibility. And third is the idea of transparency. The idea of focus, most of all, is centered around the idea that you don't want a context switch. You don't want to have one app for one area of your life, another app for another area of your life, or maybe if you're in a company, you don't want to have the sales team in one application and then the designers in another one, and then the engineers, and a third. Because when you have to do cross-functional projects, where do those live? How do people work together? How do they collaborate, right? So one thing we're very, very passionate about here at ClickUp, and kind of our motto, is we have one app to replace them all. We want to minimize those context switching events in your day. We want to be able to get the entire team collaborating and working inside of one application to allow you to focus, to allow you to do everything that you need to do directly inside of one app. Moving on from focusing, we're talking about flexibility. Something else that's really, really important, this is directly from our founders' mouths, is the idea that we want to allow you to work the way you want to work. You shouldn't have to be forced to work a certain way. Project management should not be opinionated. If you want to work in Kanban style, you can do that. If you want to work on lists, you can do that. If you like spreadsheets, you can do that. If you like mind maps, you can do that. The general idea is we want to meet you where you are. We want to enable you to be as productive as possible by helping you to work the way that you want to work. And third is the idea of transparency. And I've got two phrases down here below, the idea of the source of record and the source of action, right? So something about transparency is important. One, I love the saying, sunshine disinfects. And that means that anytime, you ever have any type of a question about what occurred at any point, well, just expose it to a little sunshine, allow it to be transparent, show people what has happened, and you create and share the source of record. The source of record is kind of that audit trail. It's what has happened on any given project at any given time, what's ongoing, what's happening right now, right? So at ClickUp, we want to be that source of record for your entire company. Anytime somebody's working on something, maybe that takes longer than 2 minutes, well, it's in a task, it's in ClickUp, you know when it was added, you know when it's created, you know who's assigned to it, you know when it's due, you know all that information. So you can look back and say, what happened here, right? And that's really, really important for improvement purposes, right? I don't know, anyone out there has ever done what we call, a post-mortem, right? Or a retrospective on what has occurred. Well, you need to have that history in order to know. And that's how you improve things for the better, because you see what's happened and you decide to change it. So ClickUp becomes that source of record where you know what has occurred, but then it also becomes what we call the source of action. Not only do you know what has happened at your company, well, you know what's going to happen next, because you have the due dates on the things that are supposed to happen next, right? You know exactly this is the thing that's supposed to go on or go next too. Maybe it's a subtask inside of a parent task, or maybe it's another task that's got a particular due date. It doesn't matter. The point is, you know what has happened and you know what's going to happen. And this type of transparency really, really helps to improve your productivity, because you know exactly what needs to be done every time. So let's talk a little bit then about the idea of, oh, that's interesting. One moment. There we are. Our vision for this has been the same since it was when we started 3 years ago, right? All your work should be in one place. You don't have to switch between different apps. You don't have to, have different apps based upon the size of your team. We want to be as flexible and as least opinionated as possible about the work that you do. And we want to be as accommodating as possible for anyone and everything. All that work that you're doing, it all happens inside of ClickUp. We built that tool to do it, the one tool, the one app to replace them all. So that being said, we're about to dive into the application. And remember, it's going to be blank. It's going to be empty. It's going to be just like your account, like when you're starting out. So I can show you exactly everything that you need to do. But before we dive in there, we do need to make sure we align on our terminologies. Feel free to ask any questions. Again, folks, inside the Q&A, our wonderful coaching team will be able to answer those questions for you. These are the terms we're going to be saying today, everything you're seeing on here on the screen. And we're going to start with maybe the most important term is the idea of the workspace. Your workspace is the area that you and everybody you collaborate with, maybe everybody at your company, or if it's your personal workspace, everybody in your family, you're all going to be inside of a singular workspace. Imagine that workspace like a giant office building that contains all the work and all the people who are doing the work that is ongoing, right? That's the workspace level. Well, if we skip down here to the task level, tasks are the work you're doing, right? These are the actual things that happen, that are occurred, that are tracked. So you know what you need to do next. A task is a basic unit of work for you to know and to get done, okay? So your workspace contains all your tasks, and maybe your tasks might be rather complicated or complex, and that's okay if they are, because you can always divide them up into subtasks. You can say, this is a constituent part and we need to do. But in between this idea of tasks and the idea of the workspace, we've got these 3 layers of the hierarchy. And each of these layers serves a purpose. For example, from the task level, directly up, we have the list level of the hierarchy. Every time you have a task, it must live on a list. Okay, these two come hand in hand. They must come together. All right, keep that in mind. Similarly, when you have a workspace, you must divide it up into spaces. Think about the spaces as potentially different departments at your company. You might have a sales space, you might have an accounting space, you might have a customer service space, right? Or spaces could also be perhaps high-level cross-functional initiatives that you want to have other people being able to see, right? That's okay too. You can do that. Some companies I've talked with also might use spaces as particularly as their clients, as their customers, as those people who pay them money. That's also a possibility. Again, folks, this is the idea of being flexible. We want to be less opinionated, allow you to do what you want to do. But generally speaking, you take that workspace and you divide it up into spaces. Between the spaces and the lists, we have this folder level. The folder level is not mandatory, but it is a great way to wrangle your lists. A folder contains lists, right? And see this little list area? Imagine it's this little smiling guy. They're all contained inside that folder. Sometimes we do get this question, so I want to make sure that you're aware of the capabilities of the system. You can have 400 lists in a folder, and you can have 400 folders in a space. So as you can imagine, you can get extremely complex, have a lot of data inside of your workspace, and you can have tons and tons of different workspaces with all of those folders, lists, and tasks contained, okay? So as we talk today, remember, we've got our workspace. It's divided up into spaces. Those spaces are divided up into folders, divided up into lists, and divided up into tasks. From here, folks, we're actually going to dive directly into the program. As I said, it's not built out, right? Because we want to make sure we're showing you how to do this from scratch. But what we're going to do inside the program here, as you can see my screen, there we are. Here we go. No spaces. So what we're going to do, and maybe you might actually have a space inside your account, is we're going to add a space. Okay. When we click that add space button, this first space, we're just going to call this an example space. And then when we hit next, we have the ability to adjust and to change different things about the space. I'm a big fan of pizza. I'm sure we all are. So I'm just going to have the little pizza icon with that next option. We can choose things like privacy. Do we want this space to be private, or do we want it to be public so that everybody in our workspace can see it? Private means just me, or I can add specific people. Public means everybody automatically gets to see what's inside of it. And we have the ability to change our statuses whenever we're setting up the space. In this case, I'm just going to add in statuses that are, let's say, normal. I'm going to add in a nice little review status here too. See how I can customize it? Pretty darn cool. We'll hit that next option where we can turn on things called click apps. These are little features you can turn on or off. I usually like to keep things turned off to make it as simple as possible as we're building stuff out. We have something here called views. Don't worry, these views are just how you view your tasks. I know we're going a little bit fast through these, but we're going to come back to them a little bit later. Just think about your task views as your ability to view your task inside the program. Then we have a nice little review here, and click the create space. Well, we've created this space. So I want to make sure inside this space, we drive home to you how your hierarchy, how your account's going to be built out correctly, okay? This is really important, especially as you're building out your account. This is where you want to measure twice and cut once. So what we're going to do is we're going to click the plus view option, and we're going to use a little tool we call the mind map, right? We click that mind map. We're going to select add view, and it's going to prompt us. We're going to select the blank mind map option, where you start with something called a root node, all right? And this root node in our cases is going to be something called a workspace, okay? So as we're building stuff out today, here's what it's eventually going to look like. We have a workspace, and that workspace is going to be built up of spaces, right? So we can say this might be space 1, and this one might be space 2, and this one might be space 3, right? It could say space 3, it could say marketing, could say whatever it is that we want it to say. But just keep in mind the idea that we do have these different spaces available to us inside of our workspace. And if we want to, we can click and drag them around, all that kind of stuff. There's also this handy dandy little button in the top right that allows you to relay out. When you click the relay out option, it will orderly put these in order for you. So again, workspaces are divided up into spaces, and our spaces are then divided up into what we call folders, right? So we've got folder there, we got folder 2 here, and maybe we've got folder 3. But remember, folders are not mandatory. So maybe you've got a folder list, right? So this might be list number 1, and maybe we've got folder list number 2. That's okay, right? So we can see this space is going to contain these folders. If we hit that nice little relay out button, you're starting to maybe see what I call the hierarchy tree takes shape. We've got the workspace, it's divided up into spaces, and those spaces are divided up into folders and lists. And these folders will likely contain lists, right? So we're gonna have list 1 and list 2 and then list 3, right? Again, these are all, so we're showing you sort of how this is all gonna be organized in your account once you have it built out. We wanna show you the end goal there so you know this is what we're striving for, right? So we've got a workspace, spaces, folders, lists, and these lists will contain those tasks we talked about. Remember, your tasks are your units of work, okay? So anytime you're doing something, you're gonna add a task, and those tasks are gonna contain the work that you're supposed to do. And if these tasks are complicated, you can even break them up into subtasks if you want to. So we can say subtask 1 and subtask 2 and subtask 3. And then if you really wanna get crazy, you can take your subtasks and you can do something we call nested subtasks, right? So you can go even more complex, right? Task 1 and nested subtask 2. We're not going to go too in depth here. Safe to say you can go actually 7 layers deep on these nested subtasks. But I show you this because this is what you're eventually going to look like, what your account's eventually going to look like, your workspace is eventually going to look like inside of ClickUp. You're going to have a workspace. That workspace is going to have multiple spaces. Each one of these spaces will have folders like we see here. Each of these folders or lists will have, again, the idea of lists inside the folders or lists by themselves. The lists must contain those tasks. Those tasks can include subtasks or nested subtasks. This hierarchy tree, this hierarchy branching, again, it's important for us to keep in mind as we talk today. All right, so that is how we wanted to train you on the hierarchy. But what we're gonna do now is actually start building out this account with a use case that you want to see. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna introduce you to the idea of our template center. And next to our space, we have the idea of a plus option. When we click that plus button, we see the template center. The template center is your friend. As a new user of ClickUp, you should be using our templates. And in fact, not only should be using our templates to try and understand sort of how the system works, but maybe as a base layer for your own templates, because your company should be creating templates. Templates are your repeatable processes. They are your company's secret sauce. You know, they're the thing that you do extremely well, and you want to do it in a repeatable manner. That's when you use templates. And templates are extremely valuable when you're building out your hierarchy, because you only have to create the template and you can use the template again and again. You don't have to necessarily do everything by hand. So let's browse some templates. Click this browse template button. And this is our beautiful template center. Our templates on the left-hand side, you can see are things called types, right? They're divided up by different types, and you can select all these different options here to see types that are available to us. And then down here below, we even have levels, if you're beginner, intermediate, or advanced. So it says space, folder, list, task, doc, view, right? These are all the different templates that are available to us. And as you increase or decrease what you've selected, you can see more and more options are available to you inside of the template center. For our purposes today, what do we want to see, folks? Previously, we've done things like marketing, we've done things like accounting. Do we have any special requests for those particular templates we'd like to do? Project management, maybe, that's a good one. Bookkeeping or tax prep, we've had that. Accounting, oh man, I love accounting, that's great. Company processes, task management, all right. So I'm gonna narrow this down to folders just to make this a little bit easier on us. And I'm gonna scroll down, keep it simple, content marketing, office manager, task management. It looks like we did see quite a bit of accountant ones. There was a lot of finance in there. Home improvement project, content marketing. Okay, so let's do the finance ones, right? New hires or HR. Okay, we can do both, right? So we'll do a little bit of finance, do a little bit of hires or HR. What we're gonna see here is the idea of finance folders, right? These are folder templates. And if we click one of these templates, we can see more information about the template that is a community template for us to use. It'll tell you things like what the status groups are included, what are the custom fields that are added, and any different view types that are available to us. We're going to use this template And when we have the opportunity to use this template, we can put in a name, we can choose a location, and then we can choose what we actually want to import. So perhaps, we might want to customize or import. We don't want to bring everything in. We only want to bring certain things in. Maybe we want to forget about due dates, or, we don't have to worry about the tasks, the attachments, or anything that's in there. We can choose to do that. In this case, we're going to bring everything in just because it's already populated. We can also remap the due dates, right? So we can choose if we want to pick a particular due date for things that are built inside of it. If I pick that, there we are. So we can put that in. We can say we want to skip weekends, or if we want to import all tasks as open, they're not already in any statuses, maybe we might want to do that as well. Down here below, we can decide to include archive tasks too. So that's just using a template. I'm going to show you that again, don't worry, but I want to show you here down below, we are creating that folder. And we have now created a accounting folder. That accounting folder now has two lists inside of it. We've got accounts payable and accounts receivable. Each one of these lists is populated with its individual tasks. All right. To show you how that works again, you just click the little plus button on the space level. We select the template center from the dropdown, and we select the browse template option. And we can see again those options which are available to us. If we scroll down to our finance section, where we were, or actually somebody suggested human resources, right? So you might want to check out the employee onboarding one. We can click the template, inspect it, make sure it makes sense for us. We can use that template, follow the same thing we just talked about. And then we're going to build out at least one more here to make sure that we have everything the way we want it to. We got to make sure we're building out a decent amount here, right? So we're going to see we've created this folder for employee onboarding. You can see it's broken up by different departments. Those different departments might have separate tasks for those employee onboardings. And one more template we're going to add in here. Here we are. We're going to select maybe, let's say, customer service, finance, no. Well, let's add in a customer service one as well, right? So again, folks, generally speaking, you can add those templates into your account, and when you add them in, they're going to come fully fleshed out. They're going to contain those tasks for you. As you notice here, we do have a customer service folder that we're using. And inside of that, we can see different tickets or things that we're doing for customer service. Each list that we have is populated by different tasks. And if we click into any particular folder, we can see those lists that are responsible or that are in that particular use case. Now I've added these folders all inside of one space, right? Let's rename this space real quick, just so that we can make sure we're on the same page with the use case. This might be an accounting use case, right? So let's say accounting, there we go. And we can save those changes. You can see that this is the accounting space, but maybe, we might want to create another space that's like a customer service, right? And we can do that. I'm just going to breeze through each one of these sections here. Don't worry, we can always come back and take a look. Remember, this is being recorded and you can ask your questions as we're talking. But what we can do is always, take maybe this folder that we've already created here and move it into our customer service space that we just selected. So we can always do that, right? Keep that in mind. What's important here, though, folks, is the templates that we've created. They've come in with their statuses, they come in with their tasks, they've come in with their custom fields. And we're going to go a little bit more in depth on these so you understand how this works. Let's pick this, accounting use case that has potentially, accounts payable in it. So each task here looks like it is a different accounts payable, right? So we can click into any one of these. And when we do, we see that task. When you click a task name, just like I showed you, click the name here, you're brought to this area called the task screen. This task screen is amazing because this is where you're going to get like 85% of the functionality of the entire application directly from this one screen. You're going to be working so much from here. And there's a ton of different features inside of this task screen. We're not going to go over all of them today, but I am going to give you 5 quick best practices so that you understand how you're going to be using the program. If it's an accounting use case, if it's a content use case, it doesn't matter. They're all going to work this exact same way. So let's dive in a little bit. First and foremost, on the left-hand side, we've got what we call the status. You can see if we hit the little drop down, these are specific statuses to the idea of accounts payable. We've got unpaid, ready to pay, and paid, right? But these are customizable. So just because we have these 3 for our accounts payable doesn't mean we have to have the same for our accounts receivable, okay? Or any other part of the application itself. We can create specific statuses for the location of the hierarchy we are located. If we click the little gear icon here, you'll be able to see those statuses which are currently available to us. As we said, unpaid, ready to pay, or paid, right? We can always create custom ones, use different ones, go through what's ongoing. But the general idea is you want to use these statuses because these statuses are status updates, especially if you're collaborating with others. This is the best way to let people know what stage or what you're working on or what's happening with what you're working on, okay? These statuses are incredibly important as well for things like reporting because you can report out on what tasks are in what particular stage or ongoing. Statuses are a best practice. Directly to the right of that, we have our assignment feature. When you click the assignment feature, you can pick a particular person that you want to be responsible or assigned to this task. So in this case, we're going to select my friend, Jim Halpert. Jim Halpert is assigned to do supplier number 5, right? He's responsible for getting this task done. If we wanted to, we can have multiple people assigned to that particular task. In this case, Michael Scott. So we got Jim Halpert and Michael Scott both assigned to get this done, or we can remove Michael and only have Jim be responsible for this particular task. It's important though to use your statuses and to use your assignments. People need to know what they're responsible for, and using your assignee option is the best way to let people know what they are responsible for. We're going to take a quick detour down here below and talk about this area called the custom fields. We're going to get more into custom fields in a bit when we talk about task views, but think about custom fields as a great way to track items or information across the tasks that you're working on. In this case, we've got custom fields, which are specific to the idea of accounts payable. But if we were a content team, we might have custom fields here that are specific to content, whether it's in a particular review status, what are the keywords we're going for? Those all might be different custom fields that we can create. We can edit or change these custom fields just by clicking them, but the custom fields are really important for us because they allow us, again, to track important information across different tasks that we're working on. Directly to the right up here, we've got the idea of a due date. This is the 4th best practice we're talking about. Due dates are so important. I don't have to tell the accountants who are listening actually how important due dates are because I'm sure they've got tax deadlines that are coming up, right? But your due dates are generally the dates that you're supposed to get something done. So you can select a particular due date just by using the due date option here and picking that date that you want to have something done. Or we can have a start date. What is the date we need to have something start built in? Pretty darn cool here, right? That is another best practice. If you couple the idea of statuses, assignments, and due dates, then at any given moment, you should be able to pull up any given task, know who's assigned to it, when it's supposed to be done, and what is the current status. What are they supposed to be doing? That's the idea of transparency we were talking about previously, okay? You can always come in and see what's happening and be able to work on it. The final best practice we'll talk about here inside of your task is the idea of collaboration, or our comment section down here below inside the task. The comment section is really robust. Inside the comment section, you can say things like, let's say @Michael, right? Can you help me do this task, right? We can ask him a question. And I've just commented to my friend Michael Scott and let him know I need help to do this task. We're having a conversation about the work we're working on directly on the work we're working on. This is so powerful, folks. Think about it, right? You may be doing this currently via email. You may be doing this currently via Slack. You might be doing this on the phone. That's okay, right? I'm not saying that this is always better than those, but I will say this. Your email is siloed, right? Your email is something that, generally speaking, you're the only person who has the password to. So people can always see what's inside your email. Second, I'll say the idea of Slack and phone calls. Neither one of those is durable. And what I mean by durable is it's not something that's written in stone and you can come back and check later. True, there's generally a history with Slack, but Slack's very ephemeral. You have to kind of go and search for conversations and things that you had about something. When you use the comment section inside of ClickUp and you have the conversation about the work you're working on directly on the work you're working on, you're creating a durable communication trail so that you can always go back to it and see in the past, oh, who said what and when? Who had a question? What was ongoing? You can ask each other questions. You can hit reply. So we can have a nice reply here, right? Something else that's kind of cool that I love to show people is the idea of /commands, and inside /commands, we can do GIFs. We can do fun GIFs. We can have nice reactions between each other. right? So we can add in GIFs. We can also add in emojis, right? So we can say particular emojis are great. We can add those in as well and work well together. It helps to create a culture while you're remote, folks. Think about that, right? You want to make sure that you're having a fun, unique work environment. So those are the 5 best practices whenever you're using tasks. Keep in mind the idea of statuses, assignments, due dates, your custom fields, and your comment section. All these things are going to unify to help make sure that you're creating that audit trail, that source of record of what's happening on your particular tasks, as well as telling you what you need to do next, because you can always know tasks by their due dates. Remember, folks, ask your questions about tasks inside the Q&A section, and we will be answering them as we go. But from tasks, we're going to talk to you about the idea of task views. So very similar, not the same, but kind of related. What we're seeing here is the accounts payable list, and these are the tasks that are inside of that list, right? Up here at the top, you can see where our task views are. See how it says that plus view option? These are the task view options which are available to us. And earlier, before we hopped into the application, we talked about the idea that ClickUp wants to be as flexible as possible. We want to meet you where you are. We want to keep you and make you as productive as possible, right? So one way we do that is by helping you to work the way you want to work. In this case, you might like lists. That's cool. By default, things are going to be in lists. But perhaps you might be a content team and you like to use Kanban. Well, cool. You can take tasks, you can move them to different statuses, just like this. Click and drag. You might like Kanban. That's great. Maybe, just maybe, you might be a fan of calendar. So I'm just going to click the little plus option there, just like calendar, and I can pull up a calendar and you can see my tasks and the day that they're due, right? This is a really long task. I can reorganize it, right? I can say, okay, this is going to be this time frame, 2 days rather than 14 days, or take this task and increase it out, or click and drag and move the due date like so, right? Same exact data we were seeing on the list view, but it's just presented to us as a calendar. Every time we change the task view option here at the top, it's the exact same data, just presented to you in 2 different ways. And again, this is how you have that flexibility. This is how you can work the way that you want to work. So we're going to show you how to create your views and how to make sure that you understand you can see exactly what you want to see. You may notice we're located here on the accounts payable list. And if we move to the accounts receivable list, well, our tasks react. We see different tasks based upon the location in the hierarchy we are in the sidebar on the left-hand side. If we change the list, our tasks change. Same is true if we change our location. So let's say we move up the hierarchy to this particular folder, then we can select the accounting folder. And when we do, you can see we've got accounts payable here and we've got accounts receivable. We're seeing both these lists at one time. As we move up the hierarchy, we are increasing the scope of the lists and tasks that we are available, all right? So as you move up that hierarchy, you can know exactly, or forgive me, you can see more tasks and you can work on more tasks. So again, we're on the folder level here. We're seeing both these 2 lists. And then if we move up to the space level, well, guess what? We're seeing all of the lists contained inside of all of these folders. And if we move up to the everything level, well, we're going to see all of the lists contained in all these folders contained in this space, but also the lists and tasks are contained inside of this space as well. Everything means everything. And here on the everything level of the hierarchy, we're going to teach you how to create your own cool custom task view. We'll click this plus view option here. We're going to select the list option because that's default. That's the one you're going to be using so much. And here we might create a list for my urgent tasks. We can add this view. When we add this view, generally speaking, if you're an admin and if you have not made it otherwise in the application, any view you create is public, so other people are going to be able to see it. You can always create private views as well if you so choose, but just as a default, so you're aware, the views you create will be public. When we have this view created, we are free now to update and change it the way we want to. And what I mean by update and change it, well, we might want to use a filter. This filter is pretty darn handy and really darn powerful. As you can see, it shows all the different custom fields we have available and some fields which come standard on our tasks themselves. We might want to see those tasks perhaps that have a particular priority. or we might want to see the ones that have a particular due date or in this particular status. We can do that, right? But in this case, maybe I'm just going to select the assignee and I'm going to select Jim Halpert. When I do, you can see the task list react. And now you're seeing the one task that is assigned to my friend Jim, right? That's how powerful these filters are. They can take what you're seeing and they can narrow it down to show you what you want to see. I'm going to use a due date filter in this case, and we're going to say due date is, let's say this year, right? So let's say this year, and there we go. You can see the task list has reacted and narrowed down. Not only can we use filters, but by default here on the list view, there's a cool thing called grouping. You're going to notice each task here, it's grouped by its current status. So if we took this supplier task and we changed its status to unpaid, well, you're going to see it move down here to this grouping. That's because your tasks are grouped by their status. We can select the grouping option here and we can change our grouping. Because this is something called My Urgent Tasks, well, you know what? I'm going to select priority as our grouping. When I do, now I'm seeing all the tasks which are filtered to do this year with priority groupings. See how they're grouped by priority here? And maybe, I'm just going to assign a couple of these to myself so that when we get to that stage, I can show you. But again, folks, you can group these any way you want. So we can select the grouping here. We've got assigning, we've got due dates. Maybe we might want to select due dates. That's always a good one. So you can see your tasks are overdue, due today, due tomorrow. And you might want to sort. You can take a column and you can click the sort option and you can sort your tasks by their due dates so that you're seeing those tasks which are most overdue at the top of the screen. Additionally, something else we might want to do here, folks, are those custom fields we were talking about, right? We might want to see our custom fields. Here's the plus button on the right-hand side, right? We can make visible any custom fields, or any fields that are already on tasks, right? Very easily here on the left-hand side, we can select a field. We might want to see, the date those tasks were last updated. And you can see here, I've now added that field. Perhaps I might want to see things like, the start date that's on any particular task. Well, now I can see those start dates and I can see it rather easily. I can just click, this is the date that I want to have that started. There you go. So you can add in custom fields. You can add in fields here on the left-hand side, or you can create new custom fields on the right-hand side. And we can do that just by clicking the particular type of custom field we want to create and creating it. Generally speaking, I would not recommend creating custom fields here on the everything level, because when you create something on the everything level, well, it's now created on everything. It's going to be on everything inside of your workspace. So keep that in mind as you are using it, but your custom fields are your friend. The final thing I'm going to show you here is the idea of me mode. See this me mode option on the top right? It says me. Well, when I click it, this is like putting on my productivity blinders. I no longer have to see tasks that I don't need to care about. It's a quick and easy way to filter down to the tasks where I'm assigned, or I have comments that are assigned to me, or subtasks or checklists. Me mode is your friend. You want to make sure you're using me mode to keep track of everything that you're doing, or for me to again, make sure you're actually doing those things that you should be doing, and you can see them. So what we've done here is we've created a view, right? And that view, well, it's called My Urgent Tasks. So I'm going to go back to sorting, or for me, grouping this by priority. There we are. And I'm going to turn on me mode. And there we go. Now I'm seeing My Urgent Tasks here at the top. One thing I might want to do with this is this might be a task view that I want to come back to in the future. I want to keep seeing it again and again. I have the option here to select and save the view for everybody, right? So I can select that, and anytime anyone comes to the My Urgent Task view, well, they're going to see the filter I have active. They're going to see the grouping I have active. They're going to see me mode. We're going to be able to have this here so that they always see it and they come to it. Another thing you can do here is you can click the 3 dots for this particular task view, and we might want to add this as a favorite. This is just like a bookmark on your browser. You can save this task view, and it'll be this location of the hierarchy with these filtering view options available to you. You can come here and be able to see that. Additionally, when we click these 3 dots, you can see we have the option as an admin to default this for everybody. So every time somebody comes to hierarchy at the everything level, they're going to see this particular task you have, or maybe I just want to pin it. So it's always going to be at the front. I can do that. Or perhaps, I might want to take this and make it personal or protect it, right? So if I protect it, then I can say certain people cannot do it. It looks like I got to upgrade to the business plan to protect it. Oh, my apologies. I'm on the unlimited plan, so you might be on the limited plan too. But generally speaking, there are other features that you can use. And again, the idea of upgrading to business to have those personal views, okay? All right, so that's how you can create your task views. Remember, you can have favorites, and if we were to go to a different area of the hierarchy, and maybe we're doing some work in accounts payable, but then I want to go back to that, I just click the favorites option, I select it, and it brings me right back to it, okay? This is a great way to navigate and work around inside of the application itself. We've shown you how to create your task views. Remember, if you have any questions about your task views, feel free to ask them as we go. But then we're going to get to the idea of our home tab. So let's remove the me mode here just by clicking the little X. And we're going to teach you some best practices for personal productivity using the application itself. Every day you log in, come here to this home tab. See this home area? Once you click it, I love the home area because the home area shows you our tasks that are assigned to you. And notice it's showing me stuff that's overdue, up next, unscheduled, etc. I can take tasks that are overdue and I can move them into due today. See that? Just click and drag them up. The general idea here is this is a great way to start your day to make sure that you're as productive as possible. You can come to the home tab and you can plan what you want to do. So we select the task that's due today. And if I wanted to, I could even go down here to my calendar and I can move it into the calendar. I can even increase the time frame. See that? So I can say this task is going to take me from this time today. So every day you're working, you come in, you click into the home screen, you can see those different tasks that you need to get done, and you can position them throughout the day so that you know you're actually going to get done what needs to be done. Additionally, above there, we have this area called the lineup. The lineup is the area for your most important tasks you're working on. You can click and drag tasks up inside of it, and you can rearrange them. Your lineup is visible to other people you work with, so they can always see tasks that have been added to your lineup to know that you are working on those particular tasks. And then on the right here, we have the idea of trending. So you're always going to see those tasks where you are trending. So what I love to do as my personal algorithm is I log into the account every day. I come to the home area, I see what tasks I need to get done. I position those tasks in the areas and time that I have available to me. I then like to check my notifications. Notifications are great because they tell me things where I'm working with other people. You know, if somebody said something or needs something to happen, I can see those notifications which have occurred. I don't have any notifications here because this is a blank account, right? But check your notifications, check your home screen every day to make sure you are getting done and are updated on the things that need to be done. From the home screen, we're now ready to answer any questions that you guys have. Looks like there might be a couple questions that are in here. We'll find out. Looked like somebody had, one moment, let me pause the screen. I gotta check out my Q&A section. All right, so looks like we got a few questions here. Is this section for your personal board or can everyone see? So it depends on, again, there we go. We were showing you earlier, right? If we go into a particular space, and let's go to my favorites. So we're going to the My Urgent Tasks option. And inside we have those My Urgent Tasks, right? When we click it, we have the ability to make a personal view. See this personal view? That would be something that was just for me, right? And if we click the little question mark, it'll take you more information and tell you more about personal views, right? Personal views are only visible to you. If you want to create a personal view without changing the view of others, you can duplicate the view, so you only end up with your own, right? But if I select that here, then you'll notice it is paywalled, right? So for my account here, I cannot do a personal view because I am not on the business plan, right? I'm only on the unlimited plan. So you can upgrade to the business plan in order to have those personal views. Hopefully that answers your question. Business plan is actually really darn awesome. You'll see some more stuff on it as well. Next question we've got is from our friend James. James says, say I brain dump 100 tasks, but I'm only trying to get 10 results. I would rearrange a hierarchy of results, then task leading to result, subtask leading to task, etc. With time estimates, what is the easiest way to do this? So that's a good question, James. It looks like you've got a lot of stuff that you're trying to think about and figure out how to do. So something that I might do is I might just create a quick space here, which might be brain dump, right? We can just say, okay, cool, I'm just creating this really quickly just to get stuff out. And inside this new space, what I'm going to do is add, task one. and task 2, and task 3, and task 4, and task 5, or whatever it is I'm putting in, right? So I'm just creating all these tasks inside of here. And then as I think about these tasks, I might start trying to sequence them, or I might start trying to say, well, this task is kind of related to that task, or it's ongoing or going through between the two, right? I can do that, right? So I can click this particular task over here. And first I might convert it to a subtask. So I can select the convert to a subtask option, and I can pick another task that it's converted to. Or, after I've converted to a subtask, maybe I might think about the idea of dependencies as well. Dependencies are very valuable because they'll allow you to say this task is waiting on something, or this task is blocking something. So you can create dependencies between those particular tasks. You can say, okay, this particular task is waiting on another one. A cool way to add dependencies is actually through our Gantt view. So if we click add our Gantt view here, actually, I do not have any due dates inside these tasks. Let me just put in a couple quick due dates inside. Yes. All right. So we're going to add a couple due dates here. And something, if you guys have not learned about it yet, that's really great, is we call the Multitask Toolbar. So I can select all of these tasks here on the left-hand side, and the Multitask Toolbar comes down from the top. And this allows me to do mass actions on those tasks that I have selected. In this case, what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to put in a due date. And let's say a due date is the 26th. There we go. You're going to see it's all going to be due on Friday. So what this then allows me to do is I can deselect these tasks. And once I've deselected these tasks, I'm going to go back to our Gantt view. Once I'm back on the Gantt view, you're going to see those tasks are now visible. All right, so I've got these tasks. So James, you might want to create dependencies between these tasks, saying, certain tasks are going to be due on certain days, or going to be over certain timeframes or certain lengths, right? And you can move around these tasks like so. And if you want to create dependencies to them, you just click this little gray dot, and you can move it between the different tasks, and you can start seeing those gray lines showing up. Well, those gray lines are the dependencies between these tasks, right? So we can move our projects out, and we can say these things are responsible between each other. It's like so. Once we've done that, we can also do things whereby we say, we might want to reschedule our dependencies, right? So we have the option I just selected there underneath the show. Let me select it again, which will allow us to reschedule our dependencies. What that means is, let's say, this gets rescheduled. Well, look what's happening. Task that's dependent on it, and now gets pushed out along with it. Do you see that? So your Gantt charts are a great way, if these are all dependent on each other, we can move out the entire project just by rescheduling those dependencies on that particular task. So first, what I would do is create a quick space, dump down all of your tasks you want to. You can see the dependencies have now been created. Once you've added those dependencies and added those tasks or converted those tasks to subtasks of other tasks, then you might want to hit the little plus option here, and you might want to put in what we call as a time estimate. The reason why my time estimate is not available is because I'm going to go here to the Click Apps option. And here in Click Apps, these are the features you can turn on or off, and I did not turn on the time estimates. So we can turn on that time estimates option. There we are. And I might want to do a time estimates roll up. So let's turn on any features here as well. Wow, looks like I can't do that until this is. But inside of the application itself, we can now use those time estimates I was talking about. So we can put in time estimate here. And then if we want to, we can even put in time tracked. So it's just a quick and easy way to see how much time is left. So, we've got time tracked and time estimates. You can then put a time estimate here of 2 hours. There we go. We can add those on to any given task, any given time. So put in the tasks, add your dependencies, convert them to subtasks, add your time estimates, go to your Gantt view, see how this all kind of plays out across those different tasks they have available to you. And that would probably be the quickest way for you to be able to see, different projects are ongoing. Hopefully that answers your question, James. And we are technically 3 minutes over. I'm glad you like it, James. You're quite welcome. What other questions we have, folks? I got 2 more minutes, let's say. Any other questions we have before we say goodbye today and I give you the big finish? No? Okay. Well, then let's go into the big finish, which is down here below, the bottom left, we've got an area called Help. When we click that Help option, we have a myriad of different options available to you to help yourself. First is the Docs and Facts. See Docs and Facts here? This is your self-service option. When you select the self-service option, you can come here and you can search for your answers right here. Or maybe you have searched there, and you can't figure out what you need to have happen. That's fine. Go here to connect with ClickUp. Here in Connect with ClickUp, you have the option to talk to us. This is a quick way to send us an email. Or if you want to, you can do a live chat option here. Select the live chat option as well to be able to respond to us immediately, right? This is very fun. I like to get in little gift battles. We can have a good time together. But the point is, folks, we want to talk to you. We don't charge you for support. We want to give you the best customer experience you've ever had. That's one of our company values. In fact, it's our #1 core value, is to be as customer centric as we possibly can, right? To give you the best customer experience you've ever had. So reach out to us, talk to us, ask us your questions. We'll take care of you. We want to do everything we can to make sure you're getting as much value from the program as possible. And that's our big finish, is please just reach out to us and talk to us. I want to say thank you so much for coming today. Remember, this is being recorded. You can watch the recording. We do this every week too, so you can always come next week to chat with us too. I hope you're having a good day, and we'll talk next week. Bye-bye.